Right, over to you.
Hello, everyone, and I'm really excited to be delivering this. I love delivering these sort of workshops because hopefully it can give you a lot of value. And this is predominantly for all of you people out there who are running businesses. But to be honest, it doesn't even have to be running businesses because sales is important in so many aspects of life, from anything to, whether you're with your family, whether you're on a date, whether you're with trying to raise finance, there's so many opportunities to be able to sell yourself. And of course, if you run a business, it's absolutely critical. So I want to talk about a few things today. And what I want to start with is, look, I'll go into my story in a second, but I just want to talk about some of the sales challenges and goals that people come to me with that I hear from people, and it's sort of the bane of their life. So sometimes they just dislike, they're not comfortable selling. Amount of times I've heard people saying, we're not salespeople, we hate selling. And typically these are business owners. The first thing I say to them is, well, you have to get good at it. It's a bit like an athlete saying they don't like training, right? Or they don't like being fit. They just like playing the game. It's like they kind of go hand in hand. So that's one of the things that I hear people say. The other thing is they don't have confidence with selling, right? And there's sometimes because they don't even like the word selling, they don't like the idea of selling, but a lot of the time they just haven't got the skill. They just haven't been taught how to sell, and therefore they lack confidence with sales, and not just selling their product or service, but also selling themselves, which is just as important. They want to uncover more revenue opportunities in their business. Like, people go into business to make money. It's one of the reasons. The other reason is to make an impact on whatever area they're in. And I find, especially people who are in certain industries, they feel a bit bad about talking about wanting to make revenue and want to make money, but it is very important. So a lot of the time they'll come when they say, look, we want to make more revenue, we want to make more income, we want to make more impact, and can you help us do that? And they want to increase their sales in a very authentic way. People don't want to be pushy, but they want to get more sales, they want to get more leads, and they want to close more sales, but in a very, very authentic way. Sometimes it's that the fact that they're stuck with the same prices and having to resort to discounting too often. I mean, how many times have you done that? You've had a client in front of you, and just to get the deal through, you've just discounted your price. And it's like you've just given away your value. And, that's one thing they don't want to do all the time. And the other thing is they're not converting enough conversations or leads into clients. So a lot of the time they're having really nice conversations, very pleasant conversations, which sound like, yes, the person really sees the value in their product or service, wants to buy from them, but ends up nothing happening. It was just a nice conversation. And again, that's usually down to a lack of sales skill set, mindset, knowledge, or strategy. And a lot of the time, sometimes they're not making enough revenue, they're not making enough income, they're not making enough impact. And it feels like a struggle. Their business, which they were so passionate about running, which was so excited about running, has now turned into a bit of a chore, right? And it makes them question things like, shall we go back into the working world? Or if they're in the working world and they start a side hustle, like, is this actually going to even be kicking off? Is it like, just keep the security of my job, right? So it's because they're not making enough revenue, they're not making the income, they're having to say no to things, right? Those holidays, those things they want to give their family, or maybe a training thing they want to invest in for themselves, and personal development they want to invest in themselves. They're not making enough sales, so they can't do that. And a lot of the people I work with who will come to me are very impact driven. For example, coaches and trainers and consultants. They want to make an impact on people's lives. But when people aren't working with them, they can't do that. So these are some of the sales challenges and goals that people have. And there's a lot more, but I just wanted to bring some of the common ones. And maybe some of you guys, you might be experiencing that. And if you are, just have a think about that, because what is it costing you? How is it making a difference, or how would it make a difference in your life if you could overcome some of those challenges and goals? So the first thing to look at is really what is sales and what is selling, because one of my missions, I have a couple of missions. One of my missions is I want to take the dirtiness out of selling. It doesn't have to be sleazy. It doesn't have to be cheesy. It's not actually sleazy and dirty and cheesy. It actually, this is what we look at. Because is it preaching? Is it telling? Is it persuading? Is it pitching? Is it manipulating? Is it forceful? That's what a lot of people think it is. But it doesn't have to be that. because selling in its truest, rawest sense is actually serving. And you might have heard that before, but just really think about that, right? Somebody comes to you with a problem or a challenge, or they want to achieve a goal. You ask them some questions, you talk to them, you find out that you can help them achieve that goal. You can help them get over that problem, get over that challenge. And then you're going, this is how I can help you. And you're matching the two. And ultimately, you're going to go and serve them. You're going to go and help them in whatever capacity it is, whatever product service you're selling, right? Whether it's something in the children's industry, or whether it's something in consulting, or something, whether it's something in coaching, or whether it's accounting, or it doesn't matter what it is, you're helping people ultimately. So selling is serving. Selling is helping, right? Selling is understanding somebody's needs, problems, challenges, goals, and finding a solution for them. That's what really selling is. So I don't know about you, but I don't see what's anything sleazy about that. I don't see anything oily about that. Now, don't get me wrong. There's some very bad salespeople out there. And there are some Hollywood sales movies which depict that type of salesperson. And look, do you know what? They're not really salespeople. They are just manipulators. Because a true salesperson, if you're an entrepreneur, I always say part of you is a salesperson. If you run a business, part of you is a salesperson. And all you're doing is serving. You're just communicating and serving. So I say that because I think it's really important to get your head around that. Because when you see that, like I do, and how a lot of my clients now do, it takes the stigma out of sales. You actually do it in a very confident way, in a very natural way, in a very authentic way, and you stop playing yourself small. You go out and you talk about yourself and you shout about yourself, but more importantly, you go out and speak to customers and find out about their needs when you understand that there's nothing wrong with selling. So please, please, please really think about that. Selling is serving, selling is helping. So I'll go into a little bit about me because I think it is important. So I started my sales career 17, 18 years ago, and I started working in corporate sales. And I actually sucked at it when I first started. And I got sacked from my first job. I was really struggling in my next one, about to get sacked again. And I was going to quit. I thought, do you know what? I think you either got it or you haven't. And I haven't got this selling thing, right? It's just not for me. I'm not the right type of person. It's not working out. And I was going to quit. And I'm giving you a very short version of the story. I was reading a book at the time, which actually inspired me not to. And so what I did with my own money, working for a company with my own money, I paid for a sales coach independently, and I paid for a mindset coach because I realized a lot of the problem was what was going on in the mind. And cut a long story short, but I went from that struggling salesperson to a really successful one. I became multi-award winning, and all the companies I worked for, I was always in the top 2 or 3%. I made a lot of revenue, should I say, for the companies I worked for. I made a lot of money for myself. Had a very successful career. But that wasn't enough because there is part of me that I really love helping people. And I have a part of me which is a trainer and teacher and coach by heart as well. So I decided to run my own business. And when I did that, I was originally going to be working with a lot of sales teams and helping them, because what I found when I was in the sales world working for a company is a lot of the trainers out there were only doing half their equation. So they were giving people a lot of sales skills, but they weren't working on the mindset. And a lot of selling, like a lot of business and a lot of life, is in the mind. So I could give you all the skill in the world, but if inside your mind you're going, who's going to want to buy from me? It's only little old me. My product or service isn't as good as XYZ's product and service, right? I haven't got the confidence. I haven't got the expertise. If at that point of when you're actually trying to make the sales and trying to make communication with people, you're not feeling confident, you're not feeling aligned, you've got demons in your head, then I can give you all the skill in the world, but you're never going to be that effective. So I went on a mission to basically amalgamate the two. And as well as having all my experience in selling and selling literally millions of pounds worth of products and services, I also did a performance coaching qualification. It was for the University of Bristol, a very, very intense one. And I learned to become a performance coach. I also did a certificate and diploma in therapy. I worked with one of the leading neuroscientists in the country, and I really understood mindset, things like the subconscious mind. And that, along with my selling skills and the ability to create sales strategies, I create a system which is called the SMS Mastery System. I'll tell you a little bit about it later. And that system I've been using. And what I realized when I started my business was actually there's a lot of people out there, especially a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of business owners who basically don't feel comfortable selling and don't know how to sell. So I use that system to basically help business owners and help entrepreneurs literally revolutionize the way they sell. And now a lot of the people I work with are really turning around their businesses. Many of my clients within 6 months have increased their revenue by 300%. The good thing about when you're doing something like this is very results orientated. So it's very, very clear as to what the results are. But I really get a kick and a buzz out of helping people turn their businesses around. And now I'm going and speaking on global stages all around the world. I'm delivering workshops. I'm helping loads of people, companies, sales teams, and also individual entrepreneurs. And I tell you that because honestly, 16, 17 years ago, if you had told me that I'd be doing all this 16, 17 years later, I would have been laughing in your face. I didn't have the confidence. I didn't think I was a salesperson. And that just goes to show that, when they say, salespeople are born, you either got it or you haven't, that's not true. And I've seen that with a lot of my clients as well. So it's really important to know that because all of you, I mean, like I said, there's lots of different areas you're going to be selling in life, but especially you have a business, you need to learn how to sell. And don't worry if you don't know. You can learn it. You can learn it from people like me. And once you learn it, and once you get the right mindset around it, once you learn the skills around it, the strategies, it becomes so much easier. And then you start getting results in your business. And then you're like, why wasn't I doing this all the time? So I wanted to tell you that because I tell my own story and I'm the proof of the pudding. And now I've gone on and helped other people. I wasn't a phenomenal salesperson. I didn't have a phenomenal mindset 17 years ago. I really have upped my game. I have now. And I'm always working in progress. I always want to get to another level, but I'm just showing you what's possible. So that's a little bit about me. But I want to cover something which is a bit mindset related. In fact, it's very mindset related. And this is something that can really help you get, look, the first thing you need to do, not just in sales, but in business, you need to become really, really aligned and really focused and really, really, energized in what you do. So one of the models I want to share here is a model by someone called Robert Dilts, who was a famous psychologist. And he created this called Dilts Logical Levels. So what Dilts Logical Levels does is it basically is a pyramid, which he looked at these areas of humans. And he said that if people can really understand these areas properly and be very aligned to them and start mastering them, then they're going to start doing really, really well in what they're doing, whatever that is. This doesn't just apply to sales, it can apply to anything you're doing. But also, they're going to start feeling a lot more satisfaction. They're actually probably going to start feeling a lot more happier because everything's aligned. And so when people do this, and I'm going to do a very quick tour of this, but when you sit down and really work on this and work on this all the time and build it into your life, it is amazing. So I'm going to talk to you through it, and I'm going to give you my example because I think that will highlight what I mean by this. So the idea is the higher the level, the purpose, the more important it is. Okay, so your purpose and mission is your most important level. When you have a very clear idea of what that is, then magic starts happening. And as you go further down the pyramid, it actually becomes less and less important. Although they all are important, it just becomes less important. Now, the problem is most people and most business owners and people in general, actually, they operate from that low level. They operate from the lower levels. So they get very affected by what's going on in the environment or what people around them are saying or doing, right? And when you operate at that level, you're never going to be as successful as you can be. And especially with something like selling, and especially with something like growing a business. So I'll give you an example because I think this will highlight this. So when I was struggling all those years ago in my sales, if somebody asked me, I'm talking now from a work perspective, what was my purpose? You know what I probably would have said? I would have said it's to keep my job. But at that time, just holding onto my job was like my most important thing I was doing at work. And that was what really my mission or purpose was. I wouldn't even think about it in these terms, but that's what it was at that time. Now, your identity is who do you think you are and who does the world think you are? And it's very, very important because when you own your identity, right, then you can start becoming the person you need to be or want to be to get the results you need. So at that time, if you said, what's my identity at work? I would have just said, I'm just a salesperson. That's what I saw myself as. And your beliefs and values are what do you believe about yourself and what do you value? What are your those deep values that you think are so important in your life or in your business? At that time again, my beliefs were probably something along the lines of I'm probably an average, not very good salesperson, right? My values were keeping my boss happy, were keeping my job, right? That's the sort of things that were going in my head. So you can see quite low level stuff. My capabilities, the capabilities are just skills you have, right? Obviously at the time, I mean, I wasn't as experienced as well, but because I wasn't getting results, I wasn't really seeing the need to invest in at that time what I needed, which was stuff like sales training. And because my company weren't seeing me perform, they weren't investing in my development as well. So my skills were quite low. So your capabilities are about what skills do you have in the area that you're in? What are your capabilities and competencies? And then it's your behaviors. And your behaviors are how you show up. So all those years ago, I was showing up as on the back foot, a little bit timid, I would even say, not bold, not taking enough risk, just trying to keep myself out of being seen too much, keep my head low, get through the week, get through the day, somehow try to make my target. And it was all very negative. It was all very kind of, I would even go as far as saying a little bit on the weak side. And then my environment at that time was I thought the sales was a hostile world. I don't think I even really enjoyed going to work that much. And I just saw everything as very hostile, not fun. Okay. So that was me 17 years ago. But fast forward that when I started really improving and getting better. And I actually came across this diagram at that time as I was developing myself. My mindset coach at the time introduced me to it. And suddenly my purpose went from trying to keep my job was to become the best salesperson or the top 3 salespeople in the company I work for. My identity was I'm not just a salesperson, but actually I started seeing myself as a business owner within the companies I was working for before I actually became a business owner in real life. And I started really valuing personal development and personal mastery. And I started getting a lot of belief in myself, and so did other people. As a result, I was working on myself. My capabilities became so much more higher. I became more skilled. And my behaviors were much more on the front foot, much more proactive, much more energized, much more confident. And suddenly I saw everything as an opportunity at work. And you fast forward this today, and it's gone to another level. And my purpose is to inspire and motivate and empower millions of people eventually. Not even just through sales, but overall, that's what I want to do. And I'm using sales as the vehicle because that's where my expertise is in. But a lot of that's in mindset as well. My identity is I'm a game-changing, disruptive entrepreneur. That's how I see myself. That's how I want to be seen. I don't want to do everything just the status quo. I encourage my clients not to do things as status quo because you're not going to grow. You're not going to change your businesses if you do that. You're not going to change your lives if you do that. And then what's my beliefs and values? Well, I really believe in excellence. I believe in everybody should be trying to their best, whatever it is. It doesn't have to be financial. It doesn't have to be at work, right? But it can just whatever it is you do, try to be the best you can be. Try to maximize whatever it is, whether it's even being a parent, right? Like I really believe or really value, should I say, in having that level of personal excellence, personal mastery, and pushing yourself to whatever limit you can take it to, not in a stressful way, but in a fun way. And I really believe in personal development and investing in yourself and investing in people. I invest in myself, I invest in my team because I think it's so, so important. And my capabilities, well, I've told you about some of the things that I've done, some of the things of courses I've been on, some of the things that I've learned, and I'm always upgrading myself. I'm always making sure I get better. And I've got a high level of skill when it comes to coaching, training, providing sales, selling, doing the sales myself, right? And a lot of the stuff I do around mindset because I've worked on myself. And my behaviors are bold. They're always about taking action. They're always about trying to get to that next level. They're always about making sure that I'm giving it my 110%. And environment-wise, I just see everything as a massive playground of fun, right? And opportunity. So I've told that, and I use my example not to talk a lot about myself. I did it so that when you're listening to this, you can kind of get an example of what this all means. And what I highly, highly, highly encourage you to do is take this model and look at yourself and look from a business. You can do it from a business or a life perspective. With someone like myself, they're very entwined. And I think for a lot of people, they are. And look at what's your main purpose or mission. Look at how you identify yourself within and then how other people identify you. Look at those beliefs you hold about yourself and others. You'll be surprised what goes on in your subconscious mind, especially. Think about your values that are really important to you. Another value that's very important to me, I didn't mention, is freedom. Maybe freedom is very important for you. And if it is, then are you doing things in your life to live up to those values? Look at your capabilities and maybe your gaps and where you want to get better at. Look at your behaviors, look at your environment. And what I would do two things. I would write this down and I look at where you are now and I look at where you want to get to. And the really powerful thing about Dilt's logical levels is you start being able to map out where you want to go. And when you start looking at something like your purpose, right, that will tell you where you want to be, and you can see where you're at now, and you can see that gap. Now, you might be thinking, this is all great, but how does it relate to sales? Because obviously that's what this presentation was about, right? And I have to say, it absolutely relates to sales. Because before we even get into all the skills that I teach people and all the strategies, if you're not fully aligned in your business, in what you're doing and who you are, what you believe in, and you haven't got the right capabilities, and you haven't got the right behaviors, and you haven't got the right environment or team or structure around you, you're never going to make many sales anyway. So the first step is to get this part right. And getting this right is really powerful. I've seen clients do this and realize that they're actually on the wrong ladder, climbing the wrong ladder. I've seen clients do this and actually get so energized and boosted. And when you combine this with really understanding what sales is, and then start building those sales skills, you start soaring, you start flying. But I wanted to give a little bit of an alternative take on this, because probably people were expecting me to come in and give sort of tips and tricks on things to say and do. And I do all that because it's a very important part. You need to understand the skill, because sales is a science and an art that you need to learn, just like you need to learn a language. And when people say to me that, oh, we're not very good at selling, it's like me, I go, have you learned it? No, we just are not very good at it. And I always say, that's like me saying, I can't speak Spanish very well, but I've never ever taken Spanish lessons. Of course, I can't speak Spanish very well. And sales is more than just having a nice conversation. There is a skill and an art. But before you even get to that stage, it's really important, or certainly alongside that stage, it's really important to have a really powerful mindset. And I think DILTS is one of the best ways to start that. So give it a go. Like, don't just listen to this and think I'll do this later, because later never happens. Actually take out a pen and paper and do this immediately. It can even be, you don't have to do it in hours and hours. It can just be your quick version, and you can work on it again later on. You can spend 10 or 15 minutes on this, and it can be really, really powerful to know where you want to go, know where you are now, and know what that gap is. So I hope that was useful, and I hope that brings you some value. And when you do that, you will start naturally getting better at sales. The other thing I just want to quickly touch on is one skill set, and it's about something that people don't realize, because a lot of people think that great salespeople are just great at talking, or have this silver tongue, or talk a lot of their customers, pitch all the time, and nothing can be further from the truth. Because the old saying that I think it's a grandma saying, where you've got two ears and one mouth, it really is, use it in that proportion. But one of the ways you do that, one of the most powerful things you can do, is asking sales questions. A lot of the best people, when you're in front of a customer, you should be asking really powerful questions. And there are literally hundreds of questioning techniques that I teach and that are out there. And I just want to cover one very quickly with you. And I'm just going to touch space on it. There's a lot more to it than that. But these are called level 1, level 2, and level 3 questions. So what is that? I want you to think about a lasagna, right? And when you get to eat a lasagna, where's all the juicy meat? It's at the bottom, right? You have to sort of dig in to get to the most juicy part. So that's where I think the best part is. It's the same when you're doing your questioning. You've got to probe. You've got to dig in to get people's and understand them better, to build a better relationship with them. And more importantly, get them to understand why they might need you. So level 1, and I've just taken an example. A level 1 question is basically one that just gives a fact. The person doesn't have to think too much about it. I've used dating just as a really, so I thought it would be a bit of a cheeky example, but it's one that maybe everyone can relate to as well. So if I was asking a level 1 question, I'd be asking, what is your biggest challenge in dating? right? Because it's something that somebody could quite quickly probably think about. It's at the top of their brain, what we call their neocortex. And they might say, I don't have the time to meet people. Okay. Now, let's just say I was selling dating training or dating coaching or something like that, or dating service. A lot of people will just jump in now and go, right, okay, well, I've got X, Y, and Z. It could do this, this, and the other, and you can meet the love of your life or whatever, right? They haven't really found out enough yet. So you need to go to a level 2 question, which is, why don't you have the time? What is stopping you? So level 2 questions typically synthesize on the level 1 answers, right? And they make the person think a little bit more. The person that you are selling to or having a conversation with, they have to stop and think a little bit more and go, well, why don't I have the time? What is stopping me from making more time in this example? Okay, I've taken a very simple example just to illustrate a point. So level 2 questions probe the level 1 a little bit more. Now, a lot of people stop here. But the problem with stopping here, I'm just going to digress for a second. There is a saying which says people buy with emotion, but they justify with logic. And that is true for everyone. Maybe apart from maybe a sociopath or something. But 99.9% of people do it that way. And we sometimes often don't realize, we think we made a logical decision and we placed it all on logic. But usually the emotional reason was the reason we wanted to buy it, and we justified it with logic. So one of the really powerful things about asking questions is when you get people to think, and when you dig in deeper, you're getting more to their you're getting more to their emotional brain. And when I mean their emotional brain, we are governed, as humans, we are governed by our emotions. And these are the real reasons why they want to buy or work with you. So a level 3 question then does what we call a consequence question, which is basically saying, if you don't solve level 1 and level 2, or you don't solve this problem or challenge, what does that actually mean for you? How is that going to affect you? So, sorry, I just had to finish. With level 2, when it said, why don't you have time? What is stopping you? The person might say, I'm running a business and training for an Ironman. That's why I haven't got time. So level 3 question would then be, what happens if you don't make time and don't find anyone? So just recap there. Level 1 was, what's your biggest challenge in dating? They said, I don't have the time to meet people. Level 2 is, why don't you have the time? What is stopping you? They say, I'm running a business and training for an Ironman. And level 3 would be, what happens if you don't make time? And what happens if you don't find anyone? Now they have to think a little bit more. Now they're really thinking about, well, and in this example, I've just said, I will lose my hair and teeth, lose options, end up frail and alone, right? Obviously a bit of a tongue-in-cheek answer. But the point is, this is actually making them realize that this thing that they have, they need to do something about it. And this is what often people do when they're selling. They don't get deep enough. They don't ask the right questions, right? That make the person they're selling to think and really get into their own emotional reasons as to why they need to do something, right? So I sell sales training and coaching. When I sometimes speak to clients or people that are thinking about taking on sales training, I ask them a few questions, and I've kept this very simple, but I ask a couple of questions. And when they're in their logical mind, if I suddenly said, right, do you want to come ahead and work with me now? They'd probably say no, because they're not understanding what it's costing them by not learning how to sell. But when I actually probe them and they say, well, actually, I've stopped having these stressful nights. I'll be able to sleep in peace. You know, that thing my kid wanted, I'll actually just be able to just give it to them and not worry about, can I make the money to come in to cover it? I'll be able to expand my business. And what would that mean for me? Well, it could mean that I am able to empower so many more people. I'm just giving you a made-up example here, but this is what somebody could be saying. The point is, you need to understand that before you actually start talking about your product or service. And one thing I just want to add to this is, if you do this, you don't need to think about, is this a level 1 question? Is this a level 2? Or is this a level 3? I'm just giving that as a framework. But the point is, you want to start probing. And I'm just, just touching the surface here. There's a lot, it's a little bit more complicated than this. And there's a lot more, just not only with level 1, 2, and 3, but also with questioning as a whole. So please remember that when you are speaking to people, don't just pitch or talk at them. Ask them questions, but don't just ask them random questions. I mean, have a great conversation, build a relationship. But I mean, make sure you're asking some questions that are really getting them to think about why they need this product, your product or service, and what happens if they don't have your product or service. How does that negatively impact their life? Because I finish with one other point. A lot of the time when people don't buy from someone, they don't actually help themselves, because the statistics, and I think it's something like 72% of the time when people don't make a purchasing decision, they don't go to someone else and fix that problem. They actually just leave the problem there and it's still there. So no one's won. You haven't won, and nor have they. So just remember that. So there were just a couple of things, and I hope that helps. And that's just really part of what I mentioned earlier. I made my SMS system, and that's what I really did. I created sales skills and methodology in all these different areas that we then go and break into even more detail over. So, you want to learn these areas, you want to learn those tangible skills, a bit like we just covered in the questioning there, but at a much deeper level, so that you're able to have those powerful conversations with people. So you don't have people saying, let's think about it, or maybe in 6 months, or now's not the right time, when you're thinking, you're tearing your hair out, and you're saying, but you need this. Having the right selling skills will help eliminate that. And I've created my sales skills methodology as part of my SMS system to do that. But it's also about the mindset. Because sales and business, a lot of it is in the mind. And a lot of the time people aren't self-aware. They don't know what thoughts, or they haven't really worked out what their limiting beliefs are and how their thoughts are holding them back. They haven't got the right level of belief or confidence in themselves or their product or service. They don't feel fully empowered. And just as importantly, they don't know how to empower their customers. They haven't got that great clarity, and there's still a lot of fear. So part of my SMS system, I built mindset methodologies around all these areas to, again, reduce them and even eliminate them in some situations. So not only are you learning the skill, but you're learning the mindset, which is so important to actually be able to sell. And when I mean by sell, that means have those powerful conversations, bring in those customers, and grow your business. And finally, sales strategy, because you have skill set, you have mindset, but I find with a lot of businesses, they don't have a proper process or methodology. Basically, they wing it, or they just completely rely on word of mouth, which is nothing wrong with that. In fact, if your business is built on word of mouth, the very good thing about it means that you're going to be very good. However, there's a limit to how much you can do with that, and you're relying on other people to bring in your business. So one of the things that part of my SMS system is to create I've created a methodology which goes into all these areas and helps my clients create a process, a strategic direction, understand sales trends, and create a methodology. That means you create a sustainable and consistent business revenue and income and impacting other people. So that's just a quick overview of the SMS mastery system that can really, really help you when it comes to growing your business, growing your income, and growing your revenue. I do have a sales mastery workshop where I've basically condensed my entire system into a one-day workshop. It's on the 5th of April. That's the link to it you can see there. And it's from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. It's the London Chamber of Commerce. It's only for a handful of people. So there's only going to be up to 20 people in the room. A lot of tickets have gone, and I want to open it up to this group because, look, if you run a business and you aren't making the income, the revenue, or the impact you want, and if you're being really honest with yourself, it's because you don't like selling, you haven't mastered it, you don't know really what it is, then I highly recommend get yourself to this workshop. $37.99. You are going to have the most amazing experience, and you'll also get to network with a lot of other fabulous people. So that's just something I wanted to bring to the community. That's the link to it. You can also go to my website. You can also find out more details by following me on social media. I'm Navin Jaitly. I'm on Instagram. I'm on LinkedIn, or you can go to my website, navinjaitlycoaching.com. In fact, there is a couple of my details there. So I hope that was really, really powerful, and I hope that was useful for you. And I would very, very recommend that this is something you take very seriously, because if you leave your sales to chance and your ability to sell to chance, you will always have a cap on your success, whether that's the revenue you make, whether that's the income and money you make, or whether that's even the impact you're making in the world. And if you look at every single successful person, especially business owner, they all have a great ability to communicate and sell themselves, sell a vision. You think of the great leaders, they were great at selling a vision. The Martin Luther Kings and Mandelas of this world, they were actually fantastic salespeople. They just didn't look like it because they didn't have that stereotypical look. So it's really, really important to address this. It's really, really important to spend time, money, and effort on getting this right, because I promise you, and I've helped so many business owners do this, find me or someone else that can help you with this. Invest your time and money, invest the effort, because I promise you it will make a huge difference. So I hope that helps. Do connect with me. Do follow me. Do get in touch with me. If you want to speak about anything else that I offer or anything else that I do, or you just want to even have a little bit of advice, happy to help. And thank you very much.